Hello, everyone. You're listening to Uncomfortable Truths with Euclid Phoenix, where I talk about politics, religion, and other BS that I find interesting. Today, for religion, we will take a look at the third chapter of the Tao Te Ching, the text of chapter 3. If you overesteem great men, people become powerless. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal. The master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place. All right. So, number 1, the dangers of overvaluation and excess. The opening lines warn against overvaluing individuals or possessions. Lao Tzu suggests that idolization great men creates a hierarchy that disempowers others, leading to dependence and discontent. Similarly, placing undue importance on material wealth fosters envy, greed, and dishonesty. These warnings reflect a profound understanding of human psychology. When people see inequality or lack, they are more likely to feel dissatisfied and act out of self-interest. We tend to have respect for celebrities even though they have no less value than us. People are of equal value. Sometimes esteeming people too high will cause you to become disappointed when they fail to live up to your expectations. This insight is as relevant today as it was in Lao Tzu's time. Modern consumer culture, with its emphasis on wealth, fame, and possessions, often leads to anxiety, competition, and a sense of inadequacy. By overemphasizing external markers of success, societies risk fostering division and disharmony. There is too much materialism everywhere. Sometimes it is best just to get what you need instead of having high expectations of wealth and materials. I remember when I was growing up, I wanted to be a rock star. I figured I'd be rich. However, as I have grown up, life has been a struggle financially. I had to learn to accept where I am at rather than strive for excess. The role of the sage or master. The second stanza introduces the figure of the master who governs not through force or manipulation, but by fostering simplicity and contentment. The master's approach involves emptying people's minds and filling their cores. This poetic line points to a focus on inner strength and clarity rather than external distractions. By reducing ambition and calming desires, the master helps people align with their true nature. It seems like our leaders often fail at their leadership roles. Instead of creating peace, they cause division. People hate others for being affiliated with a certain political party. They would rather govern with force than to make things simple. In practical terms, this suggests a style of leadership that prioritizes the well-being of the collective over personal ambition or glory. A good leader creates an environment where people can thrive without unnecessary pressure or competition. This stands in stark contrast to leaders who seek to control through fear, greed, and creating division. We live in a very competitive society which drains us of energy. we are burdened by what we think we should become. I believe that this can lead to several mental health issues, as it is impossible to live up to everyone's expectations. Who is more successful, a rich man who is always stressed out, or a poor person who is at peace? The critique of knowledge and desire. Lao Tzu's advice to help people lose everything they know may seem puzzling or even counterintuitive at first. However, this aligns with the Taoist critique of attachment to intellectual knowledge and fixed desires. By clinging to rigid beliefs or striving endlessly for more, individuals distance themselves from the natural flow of the Tao. I think everyone is guilty to an extent when it comes to greed and stuff. Many of us search for the truth, and as they do, it seems like life loses its meaning. We cling so hard on needing to know things, while it would be better if we allowed ourselves to flow through life naturally. This teaching encourages humility and openness. It's a reminder that much of what we think we know is shaped by cultural and societal conditioning, which can obscure deeper truths. By letting go of preconceptions, we become more receptive to the subtle guidance of the Tao and more adaptive in our actions. However, the way we were raised plays into what we have become. Some come with families with strict rules, while others have different backgrounds. If you're raised in a home with a certain religion, you are more likely to follow that religion when you get older. Should someone be condemned for their beliefs, since that is what the belief they were raised with? The principle of the Wao-we, non-doing. The final lines encapsulate the essence of Wu-wei, often translated as non-doing or effortless action. This does not advocate passivity or inaction, but rather acting in alignment with the natural order. When we practice Wu Wei, we move through life with ease, without forcing or striving against the current. For example, a skilled musician or athlete often enters a state of flow where their actions feel effortless and natural. Similarly, Lao Tzu encourages us to trust the unfolding of life and act only when the time is right, thereby minimizing unnecessary effort and conflict. This approach fosters harmony both within oneself and in interactions with others. Practical applications of Chapter 3. Simplifying life. Lao Tzu's advice to weaken ambition and reduce desires can be applied by simplifying our lives. This might involve decluttering our physical spaces, reducing unnecessary commitments, or focusing on what truly matters, such as relationships, health, and personal growth. Simplification creates space for greater clarity and peace. Life feels nicer when you have decluttered things. Mindful leadership. Leaders can take inspiration from the master's approach by fostering environments where people feel supported and valued rather than pressured or controlled. This could mean emphasizing collaboration over competition, providing resources for growth, and setting an example of humility and integrity. I'm not saying it is easy to switch your mindset. We have been conditioned to always be in competitive rather than collaborative. That's one of the problems with a highly capitalistic society. Some people do what they must to survive, while others gain a lot of money at the cost of others. Letting go of Letting go of preconceptions. Practicing openness and curiosity can help us lose everything we know, in the sense of shedding rigid beliefs. This might involve questioning societal norms, challenging personal biases, or simply remaining open to new perspectives. Such an attitude fosters growth and adaptability. Practicing Wu Wei. In daily life, we can cultivate Wu Wei by paying attention to the natural rhythms of our bodies, relationships, and work. Instead of forcing outcomes, we can learn to pause, observe, and act when the timing feels right. This reduces stress and fosters greater harmony with our surroundings. They often say that the best way to find a relationship is not to look for one, but instead to try not to focus on finding one. I remember being in a relationship once where I was heavily pushing for it. However, it ended up backfiring in the long run. This would fit well with the Wu Wei principle. I still believe that we should have goals, but we shouldn't over-expect things. Relevance to modern times. Chapter 3 offers profound insights for addressing many modern challenges. In an age of information overload, constant connectivity, and consumerism, Lao Tzu's call to simplicity and alignment with the Tao feels more urgent than ever. By recognizing the dangers of excess, embracing humility, and trusting in life's natural flow, we can cultivate more balanced and fulfilling lives. On a societal level, these teachings challenge the values of hyper-competition, materialism, and authoritarianism. Lao Tzu's vision of leadership rooted in service and harmony offers alternatives to systems driven by ego and exploration. His wisdom invites us to rethink our priorities and seek greater alignment with the rhythms of nature and the deeper currents of existence. Unfortunately, our leaders of today don't follow the Tao. It has become about making it to the top and having more control over people. Most of today's leaders are not humble, but seek power, fame, and materialism. Their promises are often empty, and people have learned to not trust the government. Leaders should work to make society better. Chapter 3 of the Tao Te Ching invites us to reflect on the ways in which desires, attachments, and imbalances disrupt both personal and societal harmony. By embracing simplicity, humility, and the principle of Wu Wei, we can align more fully with the Tao and experience greater peace and fulfillment. Lao Tzu's timeless wisdom continues to offer guidance for navigating the complexities of modern life, encouraging us to trust in the natural flow of existence and lead with compassion and clarity. In living according to these principles, we not only find personal balance, but also contribute to the creation of a more harmonious and just world. Religious connections. 1. Buddhist parallels desires, suffering, and emptiness. Chapter three's emphasis on reducing desire and ambition resonates deeply with Buddhist teachings, especially the Four Noble Truths. Desire is the root of suffering. By eliminating craving, one can achieve peace or nirvana. Taoism and Buddhism both emphasize non-attachment, just as Lao Tzu warns against displaying treasures or praising the wise. Buddhism discourages attachment to worldly achievements, intellectual pride, or material goods. Additionally, the Taoist phrase, empty the heart and fill the belly, mirrors Zen's focus on clearing the mind of clutter and ego. Both traditions see spiritual progress not as accumulative, but as letting go. 2. Christian parallels. The first shall be last. In the New Testament, Jesus frequently challenged social and religious hierarchies. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Matthew 5:5. The last shall be the first, and the first last. Matthew 20, verse 16. This parallels chapter 3's critique of glorifying the elite. The Taoist sage is like the Christian shepherd, humble, serving, and needs of the many, not seeking glory. Also, Lao Tzu's suggestion to weaken ambition and strengthen bones evokes Jesus' emphasis on inner strength over outer status. And both leadership means lowering oneself, caring for the body and soul of the principle without drawing attention to one's own cleverness or power. Islamic parallels. Simplicity and social justice. The Quran and Hadith literature often warn against ostentation, wealth obsession, and inequality. For example, woe to every scorner and mocker who collects wealth and counts it. The Quran 104 verses 1 and 2. Lao Tzu's call to avoid displaying what is desirable lines up with the Islamic principles that discourage flaunting wealth. Islamic ethics also emphasizes social harmony through modest living, charity, and humility. Additionally, the Islamic ideal of the just ruler who governs with balance and restraint mirrors the Taoist sage who leads by calming desire and reducing ambition. Hindu parallels. Karma, yoga, and reunification. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, perform your duty without attachment to success or failure. This is nearly identical in spirit with the Wu Wei, the Taoist idea of non-forcing or non-striving action. Chapter 3 ends with act with contrivance and all will be in order. In both Taoism and Hinduism, spiritual mastery means aligning with natural flow or cosmic duty, not manipulating the world to fulfill egotistical goals. Both traditions teach that peace comes when we surrender the need to grasp for control. I never could say this word right. It's indigenous and tribal worldviews, collective harmony over competition. Many indigenous cultures hold values similar to those in Chapter 3, including de-emphasizing individual achievement, valuing community balance over personal gain, living in sync with natural rhythms. For example, traditional Native American, Aboriginal, Australian, and African tribal societies often see leadership as service and status as a responsibility, not a reward. These cultures, like Taoism, promote respect for the earth, humility, and simplicity, values that protect the group from envy, greed, and internal division. Mystical traditions, the wisdom of emptiness, and mystical traditions and mystical branches of nearly every religion, Sufism, Kabbalah, Christian mysticism, there's an emphasis on detachment from worldly labels and honors. These traditions often teach that true knowing is unknowing, true power is self-forgetting. Lao Tzu's image of emptying hearts and filling bellies is not an anti-intellectualism, but anti-pretension. The goal is embodied wisdom, not cerebral status. This reflects the mystical attitude that spiritual truth comes through surrender, not conquest, just as Lao Tzu advises leaders to weaken ambition and embrace inner stillness. Political implications across cultures. Chapter 3 is also inherently political, advocating for leadership by quiet example, not public displays. Policies that serve people's real needs, not their illusions. Avoidance of celebrity culture, competition, and false merosticities. This idea echoes the political philosophies of Plato, Gandhi, and even anarchist thinkers who question hierarchy and status symbols. Lao Tzu proposes that a good ruler is almost invisible, serving not by glory, but by creating conditions for peace. This is echoed in political theories that prioritize equality and harmony over dominance and speculative. Wiccan and pagan simplicity versus materialism. Like Taoism, many Wiccan and pagan paths embrace a rejection of materialism in favor of connection to the natural world and spiritual significance. Nature-based contentment. Pagans find joy not in possessions, but in the turning of the seasons, the moon phases, and the sensory beauty of nature. Rituals often celebrate what is present, firelight, herbs, stones, not luxury or extravagance. Ritual over wealth, just as Taoism encourages collecting treasures. Pagan ritual practice is usually simple and grounded. You don't need gold chalices or expensive robes, just intent, awareness, and natural elements. The earth is sacred. Both Taoism and paganism see the earth not as a resource to exploit, but as a living being. Greed and exploitation are spiritual imbalances, not achievements. Shared teaching. The wealth is sufficiency and harmony, not accumulation. Discouraging ego and ambition in Wicca and the Tao. Chapter 3 warns against exalting the talented or those who accumulate. While many modern systems reward ambition, both Taoism and Wicca see unchecked ego as a spiritual liability. No high priests in the sky. Wicca lacks a centralized God that demands superiority or obedience. It encourages self-directed practice and honors divine immanence in all beings, not just a chosen elite. Circle leadership. Most covens operate in circles, not hierarchies. Rules may be shift in all are seen as equals before the gods. This reflects Taoist ideas that the best leaders are those who lead subtly or not at all. Ritual humility. Both traditions encourage stepping into the moment without need or recognition. In Taoism, this is Wu Wei, non-striving. In pagan ritual, this is presence and reference without showmanship. Shared teaching. Wisdom flows from quiet service, not loud ambition. Desirelessness and the sacred flow. Lao Tzu's teaching on not seeing desirable things are not calls to abstinence, but to discerning desires. He warns that craving what we won't have leads to emotional chaos. Wicca and paganism speak similarly about unchecked desire. The Wiccan Rede, harm none, implies awareness of desires' consequences, not just on oneself, but on others, and the balance of nature. Wheel of the Year festivals honor what is ripe, what is decaying, what must die and be reborn. There is no frantic pursuit. Instead, there's surrender to the moment's purpose. Spells and intention. Even in magic, Wiccans are often encouraged to cast and release, not to cling. Obsession, desire can twist intention and backfire. Desire must be aligned with the natural flow, just like Wu Wei. Shared teaching. Desire must serve harmony, not control it. Emptying the heart, filling the belly. One of the most provocative lines in Chapter 3 is, "The sage rules by emptying hearts and filling bellies, weakening ambitions and strengthening bones." This is not oppressive. It's about nurturing bodily health and simplicity, not inflamed ego and social climbing. Pagan Wiccan resonance. Bodily wholeness. Paganism celebrates the body as sacred. Eating seasonally, honoring the land, and living with sensual awareness are all forms of filling the belly. Emptying the heart, not in the sense of becoming emotionless, but of releasing emotional clutter. Many rituals include cleansing, grounding, and centering to let go of anxieties, grudges, and distractions. Strengthening bones. Many Wiccans work with ancestors' bones and the body as temples of spirit. Taoist imagery of health and rootedness echoes pagan reverence for physical strength and elemental grounding. Shared teaching. Care for the body and release needless turmoil from the mind. Wu Wei and the pagan flow. Taoism's concept of Wu Wei, acting without force, feels deeply compatible with pagan ritual and worldview. Magic without control. A spell is not a demand, it's dance with the universe and invitation. Pagans understand that pursuing too hard against fate creates imbalance. Ritual flow. Most pagan ceremonies follow natural rhythms. The seasons, moon phases, or tides. There's little rigidity or dogma. The work happens in nature, with nature, not against it. Acceptance of cycles. Both traditions speak of cycles, not straight lines. Paganism's wheel and Taoism's river both remind that what rises will fall, and what wanes will wax again. Shared teaching. The greater actions come through allowing, not pushing. Ethics rooted in harmony. Chapter 3 ends by emphasizing non-action and letting things fall into place. This doesn't mean laziness. It means letting nature, karma, and flow handle what ego cannot. And Wicca, do what ye will, harm none, promotes personal responsibility, not external laws. Magic and ethics are tied to intent and balance, not to sin or salvation. Respect for others, the land, and the gods emerge from alignment, not from fear of punishment. Taoism shares this. There are no commandments, only the deep suggestion to live in accordance with the Tao and to let the world unfold without grasping. Shared teaching. Peace comes not from domination, but from alignment. Conclusion. Simplicity is a sacred act. Wicca and paganism, like the Tao, teach us to honor the natural over the artificial, find joy in enough, let go of striving, return to what is simple, grounded, and real. Chapter 3 of the Tao Te Ching reminds us that a world driven by ego, cleverness, and greed is unstable. Wicca echoes this by centering the sacred in the earth, body, and intention, not in power of wealth. Together, these traditions offer an ancient but ever relevant reminder. In stillness, simplicity, and humble alignment with the natural world, true magic unfolds. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Feel free to check out my website in the notes. I also have a link to my Patreon page if you want to financially support me, as these podcasts take a lot of time to put together. Every dollar helps. I hope you have a nice day.